how do you go about earning a client's trust?
You knock on the door and the client opens the door. They already have a judgment based on how you look. That time that you're given is the time where you need to be able to earn that trust. So it's a specific amount to create that relationship in a timely manner where they could understand that their time is not being wasted.
Share a little bit more about that. The mindset that you have as the professional.
This is a relay race. From picking up the phone all the way to the person that's in front of the client, to the person that pretty much leaves the client's house, to all the way to the accounting. I don't see it to be one important than the other. So the professionalism, I think, it starts from the beginning.
What advice would you have for a young technician out there?
You can't have a new reality with old mentality. You might perfect a process and mindset that you have, but your surrounding changes.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wisdom of Wrench podcast. We've got a really great episode today where we're speaking to one of the GOATs that has made such a huge difference the last 4 years, not only in his own company in Plumline, but also to the greater good of Wrench. We've got a gentleman that is a killer when it comes to plumbing sales. We're going to get to him in a second. Before we do, I want to just thank my co-host who's in studio with me today, Amanda Meyer. Amanda, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. As always, I'm going to be carrying on the conversation with Faran. Oh, I just gave away his name. With our guest, and Amanda will be interjecting as she sees fit when she wants to have our guest expand a little bit further. So today is really cool because it's all about plumbing. It's all about plumbing sales. And our guest that we're featuring today, that we have in studio with us, is Faran Eini. And Faran works at Plumline in Denver, Colorado. And as I just mentioned, he has absolutely killed it when it comes to the GOAT Awards the last 4 years. Let me give you some statistics. In 2021, Faran did $2.82 million in plumbing sales and finished number one in the GOAT rankings. 2022, he did $3.09 million. 2023, he did $3.3 million. In 2024, he finished at $3.96 million. Unbelievable growth these last 4 years. So we are delighted to have Faran Eini as our guest today. But before I go in and ask you a few questions, Faran, I just want to tell you that I spoke with Bob Logan this morning, who was telling me a little bit about you and what you've meant to Plumline over the last 14 years. And here's just a couple of things that he said. He said, Faran every day comes into work and brings a huge smile, a wonderful attitude. He's both confident and humble. He's a lifelong learner, and he's a mentor to everyone in the department. And he works part-time at Plumline. There's got to be a story there. He works part-time at Plumline. So I know also a little bit of your background and how you escaped from a very corrupt country, you and your wife. And I really look forward to hearing all that story. So with that, I'd like everybody to meet Faran Eini. How you doing, Faran?
Hi there. Hello.
So good to have you. So let's start, Faran, by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. And, this, I know it's going to come up, this thing about escaping from a corrupt country. I want to hear that story.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't my idea. It was my parents' idea and I thank them every day for it. But yeah, I was born in Iran, and due to religion reasons and not having human rights, my parents decided to come into U.S. to be able to have a future for for their kids, and they provided that. And I, looking at that, and now that I have kids and a wife and a family, it's kind of scary how I put myself in that position with what my dad and my mom did, and I don't know if I have the guts to do that. And they somehow found a way to do it, and here we are. I mean, so that's a very I'm blessed for that. I grew up in Seattle and worked for a company that. So before I get to that, my dad, I'm a third generation plumber. So my grandpa was a plumber. My dad is a plumber, and when I was 16 years old, I started my first company because I saw my dad do it, and so I wanted to have my own company, and it was a landscaping company. And my dad told me, he said, come work with me. Come, I'll teach you the trade. And I said, no, I don't like plumbing. I don't want to I want to do my own thing. So, with the help of my dad, I started getting projects here and there. And this was in Arizona. And so, in my neighborhood, I would go knock on the door, hand him a flyer, and I didn't even have a car, so I would tell my dad to drive me to this project, and so the first check that I got, I remember came home and I'm sitting on my bed, I'm looking at this check, and I'm doing this calculation in my head, and I'm like, whoa, like this is awesome, like I can, with how much. With the ability that I have, because as a kid, I was the type of person where, like right now, if you go to IKEA and you grab something and you want to put it together, you don't look at the direction. I was that kid. I didn't look at the direction. I just put it back, put it in place. And so, I kind of did the calculation. I was like, wow, like this is great. So I went to my dad and I said, I want to learn the trades. This is after, doing the few projects. I said, I want to come with you. I want to learn the trades. And he goes, I'll teach you the trade, definitely, but I want you to finish school at the same time. So go school, do your schooling, but at the same time, I'll teach you the trade so you have that for you. And so, my background is finance. I majored in religion philosophy. But what happened was, when I was going to school, I was doing a lot of it was night school because I would go to work, and something clicked where I have the personality to be around people, and with the line of work I was going to, I didn't have that opportunity, so I kind of went and started getting into the trades, and this is in Seattle. So when I grew up in Seattle, my first company that I worked for, I did a custom home new construction. So it was that's what I grew up with. And it was very special to me because I saw something that I could see grow in front of me from dirt, basically, where we're digging trenches all the way to a multi-million-dollar house. And I could see from beginning all the way to the finish. And it was a great satisfaction that I would get out of that. And then after doing that, my manager at the time, he said, I want you to start running projects. So I went into doing high-end commercial applications. And so I started doing that, and then got to the point where got married and with my beautiful wife, and came to Colorado and started this with Plumline.
So your first company that you went to work for in Colorado was Plumline.
Yeah. Exactly. When we were moving to Colorado, I did some research with companies that are out here, and I wanted to work for a reputable company that has been in business, is going to continue to be in business. And so I researched a lot, and what it got me caught my eyes with Plumline is the culture and the how the ethics behind it. Every review I was reading, it kind of somehow, some way connected to that, and I wanted that, and so it was. I had a interview with our president, that's now our president, Bob Logan, and he said, "I'll give you a chance," and here we are.
That's great. So you started as a service technician at
Correct.
Plumline, and then worked your way, and where you're doing plumbing repairs every single day, and then you worked your way into a plumbing sales position, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I started with Plumline as a service tech, and I was the youngest tech at the time. And so there was obviously a couple of other techs that had been at Plumline where they were, pretty much, so what we call it, the hot calls and, the good calls, so you call it. And, and I wanted to,
I've heard that for 30 years, the good calls.
And I wanted, I watched, I stood back and I wanted to see how I could do this. And, looking at the time when I was, younger, I knew that I'm not going to get handed that opportunity. So I told myself, I said, the only way that I can prove myself is go to a call where it's a non-opportunity call, or it's a small call where it's like a toilet, a flapper, or something where I just need to go and be in front of a client, and I can, at that point, I'm in control. So when I started doing that, I would walk out of there with higher tickets. And so so what kind of got me interested was, before, what I was doing in Seattle and doing, new construction and commercial, I didn't have that interaction with homeowners. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of contractors, and it was, pretty much there wasn't enough interaction there. But when I started doing service, it was really nerve-wracking and interesting, because I put a lot of time into talking to people. I found myself talking to the homeowners more than I was actually doing the work. And so having that background pretty much, I didn't put that much time into the diagnostic and doing the work. That was the easy part. I needed to figure out the psychology part of it, where I can earn trust fast, how I could put myself in the position that the comfort level to the homeowner is there. Because anytime when a client is calling, I put myself in that position. If I was that person, how would I feel? And so I wanted to be able to control that, and I had control over that. So when I started doing that, I was like, all right, I just need opportunity to be able to practice that. So when I got the opportunity, I took advantage of it, and I was able to prove myself where I could go, hey, it doesn't matter what the call is. I'm going to make it the call, because ultimately it's not what they're calling for. It's how I can help them in the long run. So, mm-hmm. Clients, they tend to, you have a tunnel vision of, hey, this is broken and I need to fix this that's broken. Well, as a professional, your job is not to focus on just that specific broken section, but a variety of the entire house, the entire system. And so I wasn't shy about that. And so I think that was part of it, where I could go, I understand you called me for this specific reason, but my recommendations are to do this. This is going to improve your life. This is going to improve your living. This is going to mm-hmm. for long term. And so I had the ability to be able to paint that picture. And so therefore them understanding that, okay, yeah, this is something that I need to do to be able to improve my.
So let me ask a question. Great stuff. Let me ask a question about earning trust. You said that's one of the things that you knew that you needed to learn how to do.
Absolutely.
And the communication things. How did you go about? How did you go about learning that? And how do you go about earning a client's trust?
A lot of it is more reading books and researching, but at the same time, when I would be able to put myself in that position as a client's position, I always looked at it and go, how would someone want to make a decision based on someone else's recommendation? We always tend to we know where you knock on the door and the client opens the door. They already have a judgment based on how you look and the moment you speak, in that first 5 seconds of how you talk and your tone and all that stuff. But but what comes right after it is the ability to be able to earn that trust and do it in an efficient way. And so when you're able, and this is what I preach to, all my guys, where I tell them, I say, trust is a huge, huge deal. When you're able to, it's the foundation of the call. If your foundation is not good at a house that you're building, doesn't matter how well you do it. Doesn't matter. You could build the best house ever, but if the foundation is not right, it will crumble. And so same thing with the trust. I see trust as it being as the foundation of that relationship. And every client that I go to, I believe that you're building a relationship with each other. So trust is a huge, huge factor to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, Faran, that's so relevant for anyone who goes in a client's home, because you're going in their home, and you said earning trust efficiently. Tell me why efficiency matters.
Because it matters, well, in the sense of you only have in front of a client a spotlight, a time where the video, was it that show on TV, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Where they ask you a question and then all of a sudden the spotlight comes on you and it's like, boom, 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 like, okay, now answer kind of thing. I looked at it in the sense of there's a time that you're giving, and it's a gift from the client that is given to you. And that time that you're given is the time where you need to be able to earn that trust. So it's a specific amount. Now, there are times where trust comes in on what you do after. As well too, so it builds on that trust. And so sometimes unfortunately it could be it starts on a negative note, and then what you do on with that can build even more trust. But it goes back to having a relationship. No relationship is always sweet. There's sour sometimes to it, but how you overcome those can make that relationship stronger. So I see that where to be efficient is to be able to have that to create that relationship in a timely manner where they could understand that their time is not being wasted.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And I think I heard that you said, even coming down to the appearance, it sounds like there are some very simple things we have to do right when we show up at the door to make sure we're earning that trust in the right time frame. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I mean, definitely we all know, like, our presence is a lot. Like, we've heard of it where you meet a new person. Our human nature is to automatically, because of survival, judge that person within our 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. Am I gonna talk to this person? Am I gonna be able to listen to this person? Am I going to be able to trust this person? Those are I don't know how we do it, but it's that human nature in us that we're able to say, hey, this is safe. This environment is safe for us to be in with this person. And, this person. So it's the appearance is, if I come in there and, my shirt is half tucked in and it looks like there's a big stain on my shirt, and I'm not, prepared to even take care of myself. So therefore, what I'm asking for a client that I'm going to take care of, it doesn't set a pretty big picture. So part of it has to do with, when you present yourself in a professional manner. And I see myself, a lot of, there are friends of mine where you go, you talk about, hey, a plumber and this and that. I don't see that, because I from the young age, I learned that a plumbing trade is something where I honestly see it as equivalent to being a professional doctor. Like, that's how I see it. I don't view myself anything less, because at the same time that a doctor can help a patient, we are helping the society as foreign to be able to not be a third world country. So I see that. I believe that to my core. So therefore, I have a set of standard that I go off of. So I need to be presentable in front of a client to be able to put them at ease when they see me.
That's great. In a lot of cases, in most cases, you're making more than that doctor too. God bless America, right? It's a great country we live in. You probably know that because you're running a lot of the credit on some of those doctors, right? Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. The trades are so beautiful because of that. But I think the mindset that you talked about, and knowing that, hey, I am a professional. I am here. I'm the plumbing doctor. Whatever it is so critical and so important to have. Share a little bit more about that. The mindset that you have as the professional.
I mean, there with what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it could be from a technician that does, for instance, let's say the smaller job, all the way, getting down and dirty, to all the way to someone that, pretty much that is working in the office. I mean, it's, the one thing I learned from Plumline, and our president Bob Logan, he talks about it all the time. It's that I believe in, this is a relay race, right? With what we're in, it's a relay race. No other person is better than the other before. So if from picking up the phone all the way to the person that's in front of the client, to the person that pretty much leaves the client's house, to all the way to the accounting is as important as the next. I mean, I don't see it to be one important than the other. So the professionalism, I think, it starts from the beginning, because if one person messes up in the relay race, it doesn't really. You got to do a lot more, or it's going to make it hard for that race to be won, to be able to, So the professionalism, I think, starts over the phone, and at the same time. But the most important part is, obviously, the client is going to see you, is going to see that the technician, and then at that point, the image that they have painted in their mind of, okay, the person that picked up the phone, how they answered it, how they took care of me, and now this technician that's in front of me, and how they're going to complete the process. That is something where I believe that that's what professionalism is. Process, following process, to be able to do that. There's process involved, and if you follow those process continuously, you're going to get better at it. You're going to perfect it, and so once you do that, it becomes second nature to you. So then it automatically, it's the confident level is going to go high, to the point that you're not even calling it trying. You're just doing it because that's who you are. Pretty much taking, care of the client. That's who you are, because you've done it so long,
So you mentioned something earlier around reading books and developing yourself. And I thought specifically you were mentioning like communication skills. Like, hey, I got the trade down. I need to get this communication skill thing down. Share what are some of the things you do in the area of self-development and just keeping the saw sharp? What are you doing in that area?
So whenever I drive, I'm not listening to music. The only time I listen to music is when I have my wife and kids in the car, because I think they won't be very happy with me if I'm listening to other things. But I when I'm by myself, I don't listen to music. I'm listening to motivation speaking videos. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to different ways where brain is a muscle, so it needs to be worked out consistently. And so I want to continuously be able to challenge myself and learn new ways of thinking. Pretty much ways of doing things. That's very very important to me.
So it sounds like you're constantly feeding your mind with good, healthy things rather than music or listening to the news. Faran's pumping some good, healthy. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this to me is like, I want to get to the crux to this. Like, what advice would you have for a young technician out there that is new into the trade and maybe is listening to sports talk radio all the time?
Well, there's a saying that I have a notepad or a sticker on my dashboard that I read every day, that I have, that basically, it states you can't have a new reality with, old mentality. And so it's one of those where you consistently have to be able to, learn new ways of doing it, because you might perfect a process and mindset that you have, but, your surrounding changes. And you need to consistently make yourself better. So, that's part of it where, I'm continuously be able to learn and educate myself. Again, it goes back to, us in a trade where the technical part of it, I always say that's the easy part. That, learning the trade, it takes time to master the craft and being able to become a licensed, for instance, a plumber or an electrician or an HVAC tech. There's, obviously you got to put your time and sweat to be able to craft that and learn that. But once you learn it, you don't forget it. It's there. It's part of you. But, it's one of those where you consistently have to be able to, the psychology part of it. That's the part that is, some people will get it, some people won't. It comes easy with some people, and some people need to work a little bit harder at it to be able to get to be able to make it a habit. And so that's the part I want, like every time I do ride-alongs with my, with our technicians and everything, that's the part that I focus on. Because I always tell them, I'm like, you're the master. You've already, I don't need to teach you the technical part of it. That's the easy. You've already got that down. Let's focus on the part that where it makes it easier for you. And so, I challenge them on that part there a lot.
Yes. One of the sayings that I hear quite often is too techie, no checky. If you're too technical, no way you're going to transact business. It's all about, go ahead. It's all about
absolutely.
The relationship.
You're absolutely correct. And I tell this to my guys, and I mean, pretty much that's part of my, when I tell them, I go, hey, practice on something where you're in front of a client. If you need a guidance on how to do that, so you're not too techie and you're not too personal, for every technical question you ask, put 2 personal questions right next to it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in a order that you're going to sound robotic, but the ratio should be, if you're going to ask a technical question, you want to be able to ask 2 personal questions, because that's the most important part. You want to be able to, again, go back to the trust and be able to build that relationship with the homeowner. And then the technical part, obviously, you're there because you need to understand the content, like what's going on and what you need to do. And, what I see a lot of successful technicians out there, the time that they're spending on that call, majority of the time is with the client. And then the rest of it is, the remaining is the actual work. But majority of the time is building relationship with the client. So that's important. So yeah, you don't want to be too techie. You'll Zoom people, like you're gonna lose people right away because they're not fascinated by other things that we are.
Exactly. What you just said is so profound, yet so simple, that I really want to make sure our listeners hear it, and our viewers and the people that are watching this hear it. But if you want to expand on it a little bit more, I think it's just really powerful. You said, if I'm going to ask one technical question, I need to make sure I ask 2 personal questions.
Correct.
So expand on that. What does that mean? What type of personal question? If I'm brand new and I'm a new plumber or I'm struggling, what does that mean? Like, what kind of questions are you asking?
I mean, it could be as simple as, you're asking, when did this happen? That's a technical question. When did you find this out? That's a technical question. Right next to that, and you go, well, how long have you been here? How long have you been at this house? That's a personal question, because not asking that, it's not going to affect your ability to do the work. And then once they answer, and once they're talking, you listen. And then you go back on, okay, well, that's great. How you like the neighborhood? Like how that's a personal question. It gets them, talking. When people talk, they put their guards down. That's very important for when we're close and we're trying to protect ourselves. We usually cross our arms and not talk, because we want to be protecting ourselves. But the moment we let loose and talk, that's when we show our true selves, and that shows a lot.
I just want to make sure everybody hears that, what you just said. Okay, this is a message to everybody. This is a guy that sold $4 million in plumbing last year. Okay, when people talk, when your customers talk, their guard goes down. I've always believed, Faran, that clients sell themselves when they're talking. They love Faran if Faran lets them talk.
My biggest thing is, tell me more. Tell me more, because that's the biggest thing. If you're talking, because if we're trying to talk about ourselves and why we are so good that we do this in our company and this and that, let the client talk. Tell me more. How do you feel about that? They will give you a lot of information that will be beneficial for you to be able to help them. Because that's very important.
Were you always like that? Like, were you always one that?
No, I was not. I was the type of, when my philosophy part is to be able to talk a lot. And when my dad and I, we like to kind of go back and forth and talk about different subjects, and to the point where my wife and my mom kind of go, okay, that's enough. Like, you guys need, and so we both like to talk, but no, that's not how I learned that through time, where and also, again, going to see different videos and reading books and stuff like that, where to be able to learn that and go how important that is. And now I can't stop it, and so it's the other way around, where if I'm in front of a client, I'm gonna let them talk, and body language is a lot. When you're talking, when they're talking, you lean in, you listen. Your face expression, those are the things. If the client is talking and I'm looking at my phone, that's not a good sign. If with what you're doing right now, talking and taking notes, that's very important. and checking in with, everything, with, those are the important parts. When you do these little things, people tend to think like it's a magical thing that happens and all of a sudden, or it's a big thing where a sale happens. No, it's these little things that you do that will kind of stack on each other that it makes the big thing happen. Mm-hmm. So it's this little stuff that if you're doing that at the table that you're sitting down, it's very important to be able to learn that.
I love what you said, because there's so much to what you said about listening. I love that you said leaning in. I love when you said the facial expressions, all those things, those little things, like you said, make such a big difference. Yeah. And it's clear, Faran, with the level of success that you've had, which has just been awesome. So you've been doing this at Plumbine for 14 years.
Yes.
What keeps you inspired? What is it that drives Faran?
My biggest inspiration is my wife. And I truly believe that, some people may disagree with me, but I truly believe when you're married, the level of, especially as a man, like you have to basically hold yourself accountable for a lot more things, and naturally things kind of change in you. And so my biggest inspiration is my wife, and so a lot of it is her. The biggest thing, I was talking to Bob Logan about it. Is I have the mentality that I can't just sit and do one thing. If I'm doing something, I'm perfecting it, and then I need to change it to make it better. Now I'm doing that. So the best analogy that I can give is if you're at a gym and you are lifting weights, you go with what you're comfortable with. But if you keep staying to what you're comfortable with, you're not going to reach your goals. So you have to kind of keep continuing to be able to make the weights, larger and bigger to be able to reach your goals, and to kind of test yourself and put yourself at a position where you're being challenged. And so that is how I get myself motivated, is to be able to do that. And I'm a very competitive guy, but I see competition as more of a good thing, more so than negativity. Because some might see it as a negativity. I see it as a positive thing, because the being able to have competition, healthy competition, you help one another, yet you are pushing one another. Mm-hmm. And so it is, I see, I'm very competitive, and I challenge my coworkers and because I know that, if that could, if they're better, then I'm going to be better as well too. So yeah. It's a continuous kind of back and forth.
Well, I love that you shared what you just said about being competitive, because what you just did is you allowed me to share a little bit about my father, Don Comerford, who is 91 years old. And I have asked him, Dad, what's the secret to getting to 91 and beyond? Because I think he's got 15 more years at least to live. And he always tells me, never stop competing. So my dad was at a cornhole tournament last night. He plays cornhole, and that was his secret to success. He's like, always remain competitive, whether it's at work or, he's horseshoes, he's cornhole, he's billiards. He's always figuring out a way to compete. We work out together. He has a personal trainer 3 days a week, and he's always competing, always looking to push. And thank you for letting me share that, because it's been really, really special to watch him. And also, it's no surprise the success that you have that competitive gene as well. So tell me a little bit about what the success habits that you have in place, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. What are some of the success habits that set Faran apart?
I think a lot of it, for me, it starts in the morning. So I pretty much, I wake up in the morning and I go for a run, for a walk for an hour. And, it's a very, it's a time that I have that I can kind of process things without, things kind of being, thrown at me. And usually by the time I'm walking, it's still dark. So it's, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing the walk. And so, that's the first thing I do. So by the time I get to work, my brain is it's already started. It's already been going, rather than, pretty much being late. So that's very, obviously, as far as, being a young technician, it's very important, because to be on time, to be able to get up on time, put some time in you. And, there's times where, so I read at night. I can't read in the morning, but I read at night because I find it to be more relaxing and it puts me kind of to sleep. But if you're able to read in the morning, that's even better, I think. But whatever you do it to a point where it puts you in a position where by the time you get to work, you are ahead of your competition, and because your competition is not doing that, and so you're ready to go, kind of thing. And so that's huge. That's what I do. I've done that for a while. The mentality of being able to. So when I get a call, and I read over that call, right away I know that call is pretty much done. It's sold. I see it. I believe it. I don't doubt it a bit. Now, that's my mentality. I truly believe that. The reason for that is there's a reason they called, and I'm there, and I'll fix that reason, and that's it. That's pretty much, so that mentality I have. So through that time that I'm going to that call, I'm consistently kind of pretty much thinking, what's the way that I can challenge myself to be able to get to the end goal, kind of thing. So I have that process in my head as I go. As I'm driving. So, but I don't doubt it. I don't judge it. Because, I've learned there are times every one of us have been doing, we've judged one call and it has gone the other way, vice versa. And you don't judge it. You go to it with the mindset of, hey, there's a reason they called and I'm going to go fix it. And that's just that. And, the reason for that is the level of confidence that I have in myself and in my coworkers and my, our company. I see it where, it's like hands down, like, why would anybody want to go elsewhere? Like, we're here, like we're doing it. We're the best.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
So you said you want to do things that gives you that edge on your competition. You mentioned a couple, which was getting that run in the morning, reading at night, but keeping that edge, so is there anything else that you do to remain ahead? to keep that edge that you can think of?
I mean, having to be spiritually, continuously spiritually evolving, and also continue to be emotionally evolving, is very important. And a lot of people don't have that. And so that's part of, I think, our human touch that we're continuously losing as we go, and we need to gain it back. Is when we see a new person and we go and shake their hands to go say, hi, how are you? There's two ways of doing it. One is just going, shaking and going, hey, how are you? And then there's the other way of you shake their hand. As you're shaking, you're holding it and you're looking in their eye and going, how are you? And anyone would know the difference. Why? Because there's the message behind it that I actually care. And so when you do that simple thing, you're ahead of your peers, because not the competition is not doing that. And so if I go and say, hey, Mr. Client, or Miss Client, I'm gonna go and fix XYZ. Our competition is the same thing. I'm gonna go and fix XYZ. What difference are you gonna? You're not doing anything different. The same product that you're putting in, that the competition is putting in. The same hours may be the same that they're putting in. So those are all the same. What makes you different is how you shine, how you are doing the other stuff than the technical part of it. So when you are, I just had a client this morning. A project was starting, and she felt a little bit, talking to the insurance and stuff like that. She felt a little bit at ease, not at ease, where she was nervous. And our lead was out there. He called me. He goes, "Hey, I need to have you call her." And I go, "No, I'm coming there. I'm not calling her. I'm coming. I'm going there." So I took the time. I went there, and I went with a smile, and she started smiling. She's like, "I don't know if I can do this," and I gave her credit. It's a large amount of investments to do, and so I said, "What's going on? Tell me about it." And we sat down. And first, we hugged, and we sat down. And it's one of those where I let her talk, and by the time she was done, she's like, "No, I'm good. Like you put me at ease again." And so thank you, thank you for that. And we had the crew to continue, their work and everything. But just that simple task to be able to do that, rather than me calling her to a work, call her and just pretend she's another client. Well, the competition is doing that. I'm not going to do anything special, right. And so that's very important. So those other stuff that we do is going to shine a lot brighter than the competition.
Well, what we have to go back on, because I think you're touching on something here that's really powerful, and I'm a believer that we're on a spiritual journey. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we're first and foremost spiritual beings.
Correct.
And you said something that I want to make sure we come back to, which was, I came to the client's home, I saw her, and first thing we did was what? We hugged. Tell me about that. First thing you did, you hugged.
Yeah, that's.
I need to know. I want to hug my plumber. Who doesn't want to hug their plumber? But I need to hear more about that.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm going around hugging a bunch of people. Yeah, at the same time, I mean, I saw it to be a value there. At that time, I saw that in my head to be able to. That's part of the comfort that I'm able to provide to her. She felt like I believe that, again, me driving to there, I'm thinking in my head and I'm putting myself in her position and I'm going, okay, if I was her, how would I feel right now? What's in my head? And, in my head was, okay, I'm alone. I'm making a big decision and, I need a reassurance on something, right? So when you're alone and when you need to make a big decision, what good way to be able to trust someone and have someone right next to you where you can, be able to make that big decision again, so that's how I saw it. And sometimes there are times where I've put in people, clients in uncomfortable, like when I was in service, if you told me no, I wouldn't take a no for an answer. I would ask you, I would put you in an uncomfortable position. Why? Like, tell me why. Tell me why you say no. Now, I wouldn't put it in that words, but pretty much I would. I believe that when a client is calling you and they're letting you in their home, in their comfort of their home, they have kind of given you a key for that time that you're there. And you have some rights where, as a professional, you need to make sure that pretty much you ask the right questions, but in right time, in times where you need to ask the uncomfortable questions as well too. And so, if you're shying away from that, it's almost like, if you have to be able to zap someone. I call it zap, basically. And many times we zap clients in a good way where they're happy, and sometimes you have to zap clients to come back to reality more so than in their head. Of if they're saying, "Hey, I have this thing broken," and or all right, I'll think about it, and respect that and say, that's understandable. That I would be in the same position. If I'm in your position, I would want to think about it. What are the things that you want to kind of think about? Those are uncomfortable questions because you're kind of putting yourself out there, and so therefore, and then the client is going to want to.
Those are strong questions.
Those are strong questions.
Those are questions that $4 million salespeople ask.
Yeah.
So anybody listening to this, if you're a $1.5 million, $2 million salespeople or salesperson and wondering why you've been 1.5, maybe it's because of the lack of strong questions. And I got a lot of detail from Bob about complaints, and the client satisfaction that you get, Faran, is very, very high. So you're obviously doing it in a very strategic. You're asking these questions, but you're doing it in a very warm, comfortable way. Just kind of asking the client, "Hey, what is it that you need to think about?" And I just think that is so powerful because you said it earlier that when I walk the entire house, I can't shy away from that. I've got to walk the entire house, even though I'm coming there maybe for a flapper. So now I've heard it twice that, hey, with my communication, I need to be strong. I need to be strong and go look at the entire house and go address those issues. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. When I was in service, that's exactly what I did. I mean, pretty much it was, technicians that are on the service side. I mean, when I would go to a call and it would be pretty much like it could be a toilet flapper, and I would walk out of there with a water filtration and at minimum, I mean, that was it, because you're touching water, you're looking at water. So therefore you're going to talk about water quality. You're going to talk about, water pressure and stuff like that. Those are the easy part. But going back to asking the tough questions, you have to, it goes again back to trust. One, you need to earn the trust to be able to have the capability of asking the tough questions. If you haven't earned the trust, when you ask the tough questions, you become a pushy salesman. And so that's when you become, okay, this guy was being forceful. This guy's being pushy. But I put myself in the position where, by the time I've earned your trust and you've trusted me. When I ask you the uncomfortable question, I've earned that. Therefore it makes it easier. And so the idea of me, oh my God, maybe I'm sounding too pushy. I don't see that, because at that point, when I'm asking that question, I see that person as part of my family. I see that client as part of my family. So therefore, I have every right to ask that question because I've earned that trust. I believe that. So therefore, that's the time. And so you got to start from the foundation and kind of build yourself up from there.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is trust comes before tough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Trust comes before everything.
Yeah.
And then you got to have some toughness. And there are times where you don't need to be tough. You just you need to have the comfort. You need to you need to have that. And sometimes it's not even that. Once you have that trust, anything you say, there's times where if you had for instance, let's say, a medical issue and that you've been referred to a good doctor, by the time you get to the doctor, you're gonna, if anything that he or she says, you have full belief in that, and so therefore, you have that trust, and that you don't question it. So that's that.
Yeah, great stuff. So, give me an idea of what a typical plumbing call looks like for you. What kind of call are you going out on? Just so our viewers and those that are watching, they get an idea of, okay, he's going out on plumbing sales calls. So what's a typical call that you'll go out on? And then kind of take me through how that call evolves with the client.
So majority of our calls, so we have a process in place where, most of my cells are pretty much underground service lines, so sewer lines and water lines and gas lines, and so that's typically pretty much it. There are times where I kind of venture through the filtration and the repiping of the house and the bigger those bigger plumbing service projects, but majority of the time those the underground service lines. And so our system is designed where for the drain side, where our drain technicians go out first to be able to diagnose the problem and give them basically an option to clear the line and to be able to snake the line and clear the line. And in the event if they're having any issues, if they're not succeeding to they're seeing something that's not right, then that's where I come in. That's where our team comes in. And so with that, we pretty much I walk into the house. The first thing I do is I go right to the client, because that's I go and shake their hand and I when I do that, I always use certain language where it's I use the word we rather than I. That's very important. So kind of to the young guys, take that vocabulary I and throw it out. It's we. And because when you say we to a client, you're basically saying, hey, we're going to do this together. I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to do it together, rather than, hey, I'm going to do this for you. So because then at that point it's kind of like you're going against each other.
So when you're saying you're referring to you and the client rather than you and the other technician that makes
no. It's you and the client.
I got it. That's okay. Super important. I got that.
And so then at that point, that's where we I do the diagnostic with depending on what the type of call it is, and I come up with a few options for the client, and the options that I put on the paper is, I truly believe this. Those are the type of options. If it was my house, that's how I would do it. And so those are the type of options I would put on.
You tell the client that?
I definitely do.
Okay,
I definitely do.
Yeah.
That's definitely something where I tell them, I'd say, look, if these are all great options. It's almost like going into a restaurant and you're sitting and there's a menu in front of you. you might like one thing and I like the other thing, but they're all good options. It's just what you like, right? What is going to satisfy your hunger and what is going to satisfy your needs? It's in that menu, right? And so that's what I create. Is it's a menu that I have now. And once I present that, then I can give them guidance and say, hey, as a recommendation. Now I took my hat off as a homeowner and I'm going to put my hat on as a master plumber, and I'm going to tell them, all right, now as a master plumber, this is my recommendation. This is what I would go with. So then at that point, they can kind of see both sides of it, where they can see, okay, as a homeowner, or as if I was them, which one would I do? But then, okay, now I have a professional in front of me. Which one would they recommend? So now sometimes there are they conflict, which is a good thing, because then they'll the more conversation happens, and because I don't have the judgment of judging someone's wallet or the capability of being able to invest in their home. Mm-hmm. What I can do is just put as much information and knowledge in front of them and help them through that path of being able to help their through that process. And so, and once I present that option and give them my recommendation, that's where excuse me, I say this, that's when you shut up and you let the client process and talk and think and talk, talk in their head and ask questions. And so that's when you stay quiet. You see what, pretty much what they say, the type of,
and typically how long is that call? Give me an average call. From the time you get to the appointment to the time that you leave, are we talking 20 minutes? Are we talking an hour? Are we talking 3 hours? How long are you typically?
On average, I'm about an hour and a half to 2 hours on the call.
Okay.
About 30 minutes of that is the technical part of it. That's the diagnostic part of it. So the remaining is me talking to the client.
And when you say talking, are you talking to the client, or are you communicating with them? Meaning you're having a conversation with them where they're probably doing more talking than Faran.
I mean, no, it's everything, because it could be where there's a client that they've already. I know that the repair is going to happen. They already know the repair is going to happen. There's no point of kind of keep talking about the solution to that. And so therefore we're just I'm giving them my time to be able to build that relationship and again work on that trust factor, because I never want pretty much me leaving and then they're going, well, what happened? Because they're in this little fog air time where and so no, it just depends on if I want to make sure by the time I'm done and I leave, they are completely satisfied, not by knowledge and emotionally, that hey, this is the right decision for my house and for my family and so on and so forth. So there's times where we're talking back and forth, where they're asking questions, and there's times where we're just talking about other things than plumbing. But my time is given to that.
Mm-hmm. So when you think back to your journey, and you already shared some of it, if I remember, if I'm getting this right, because my next question is really around challenges that you faced along your journey, and it sounds like early on it might have been that you talked too much. And I don't want to put words into your mouth, but let me just ask the question. Tell me some of the challenges that you faced, which I think you already shared one of them, which is that. But if there's any more in addition to that, and how did you ever overcome those?
Like my beginning of my career, one of the biggest thing was I would if you told me no, I would get defensive. I would emotionally. I wouldn't not might have shown it, but I would go in my head, go, why? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, and so, and it would start bothering me inside, and so it would affect me, throughout my day. right? And so, and or in the position where if that call didn't go the way that I wanted to go, I would get defensive. And so, so I learned when you have that mindset, you're only hurting yourself. It's, and in a personal life, I was like that as well too. Like it's one of those where I got a realization at one point where, I was watching a show, and it said something about anger is like, it's like you're drinking poison and pretending that the other person is going to get hurt. You're just hurting yourself. So I kind of put myself where how do I challenge it? So I challenged myself to be able to overcome that. Therefore, I said I need to talk less. And so once I provide the information, let the client talk. So that's how I learned it, is to be able to now if you have that right away, great. That's awesome. But talk less, and let the client talk more. Those are questions. Tell me more. And so those are things that you keep, it puts you in the best position possible.
That's great. So it sounds like in your journey, and I love that analogy about, drinking the poison. Anger is like drinking poison. It sounds like you went through a journey where you stopped taking things personally. A client says no. Okay. I kind of would love to know and understand what your thought process is. It just sounds to me like early on, it was like you got offended by that.
Yes, it's like the game hot potatoes. It was one of those where, like, they said no, they handed me the hot potato, and I kept holding on to it, and I would get burnt, and so I learned that you play this game. If they're telling you no, it's like hot potato. You grab it, you pass it right back, and you go, well, what do you mean about that? Tell me a little bit more, or pretty much, how do you feel? What do you mean about that? How do you feel about that? Those are things that that I've learned over time, where it's kind of like you don't let it affect you.
It's great. It's great. Well, good. Fellow technicians and giving back. What's that look like for Faran? I mentioned earlier that Bob said you've been a mentor to your to the department. So just share with us what does it mean? What does Bob mean when he says you've been a mentor to the department since you've been here?
Pretty much. So when I was in service, I wanted, everything was, to me, basically like, I have a goal. I need to set it. I need to meet it. I have a goal. And I kept doing that. And by the time I got into sales, I had that same mindset. And pretty much a few years ago, it got to the point where one of the things, again, it was evolving and getting better. And how can I challenge myself was, okay, well, I'm going to do that. And at the same time, let me help the guys that are around me to do it better. So that actually kind of, believe it or not, it's almost like you try helping people, you receive more. And so it happened magically, which I can't explain, but that was pretty much it, where, if I'm doing this and it's working, let me show it to my coworkers and my staff, where they're able to learn and become better. So they're better and they're becoming better. When the department is getting better, then at that point, I'm naturally going to evolve and become better as well too. So that was like a huge thing for me. So the training, the ride-alongs became more. It was one of those that I wasn't in myself no more. It wasn't just about me no more. It was about, okay, if I'm doing this and I'm seeing results, what can I do to be able to make sure that, the other technicians do it as well too, and they're receiving the results and as well too.
That's great. That's great. So, kind of the legacy and your legacy. When I think about this next question, like when people are sitting around the dinner table, and I'm talking about, young technicians or fellow technicians at Plumline, or even people that are going to be listening to this podcast and watching it. What do you want them to say about Faran, and what do you want them to remember about you?
That's a very deep question. Love it.
You encouraged us to ask strong questions, so this one's on you, Faran.
That's very deep. Most importantly, being able to be known as a loving soul, basically. That's how I see it. So, it pretty much, like you said, we're in the spiritual journey, and I believe that. I totally believe that. And the more we have a strong soul, the more we can give, and we can make around us better. And I believe in virtues a lot. I believe in, we're in this world to be able to build our virtues for the next world. And so I truly believe that. So to be able to be known as a good-hearted soul, that's very important to me. I would say that would be like number one. As far as strong and confident, that would be my next thing. Would be pretty much to be known as strong and confident, because it shows your belief system, and so that to me would be pretty much that would be pretty much one thing as well too. And then having gratitude, being humble with what you have. It's when you accomplish something, there always has to be a time where you have to sit there and run that through your mind and go, yes, I made that happen, but there's other people that were a part of that. And so having that gratitude and being humble about it, and it will put you in a position where you will receive more. And so that I believe as well, 100%.
That's great. That's beautiful. I love it. What a great way to wrap up today, Faran. I appreciate you so much. So much great knowledge, so much great learning. So simple, yet so special. Like when I say so simple, I just think that what you're doing and how you go about doing things is simple, yet hard to execute. Meaning it's simple to say, you got to ask the tough questions. You can't shy away from walking throughout the house. Because that takes courage. And clearly, you have gone on a journey to be anti-fragile. And you know what? Who's going to benefit from that the most is your kids. Because there's nothing, in my opinion, that we can do than to build anti-fragile kids. That when they're faced with a challenge, they can stand up for themselves and be strong. And it's clearly that your father did that for you, and your father and mother. They built an anti-fragile Faran.
Yes.
And that to me is the greatest gift we can give to our children. So I am, what a pleasure to be on this with you.
Absolutely.
Your results, Faran, speak for themselves. Since I've met you 4 years ago, your energy has stood out. Your positivity has stood out. You are exactly like Bob Logan said to me when he said every single day he walks in with a smile, with great energy. I've seen that in the times that we've met, Faran. So I just want to thank you for all your contribution that you've made to these GOAT Awards. It has been so special. I just want you to know that I am looking forward to seeing you in Nashville. It's going to be a blast. And I hope you don't mind if I jump on your shoulders and ride the Faran Wet Band. Because I know you can hold me up, baby. I know you can hold me up. So we will see you in Nashville. And thank you so much, Faran.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this platform and opportunity to tell my story and be able to help, even if it's one person that is going to get something out of this. That's what I'm looking for.
And it is a special story, Faran. It is a special story that everybody can learn from. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So team, we're going to wrap up. And I just, Faran is a perfect example that, even after 14 years, he's always looking to make his future bigger than his past. If you look at his last 4-year results, he's gone from 2.8, 3.04, 3.3, 4 million. Last 4 years, he's grown his sales every single year. So talk about always looking to make your future bigger than your past. That's how I always like to end these podcasts with this, Faran, which is here's to a bigger future.